queen doing this kind of drag and using their drag as activism in this way could be very gimmicky, right?
It
It
has
could
been.
be,
Somebody did it last season.
yeah.
I can't remember who did it last season, where the names were written on, but you couldn't see. Like it was like,
I
did
know what you're
Alexis
talking about.
Mich- did Alexis Michelle do it? Did It's been done before, and it wasn't. It felt
Yeah,
gimmicky. You know,
I don't think
it's
it was
been
on the
done.
show though. I think it was like on a different.
This is the day that
For
the
Hammond.
Lord has made. Hallelujah. Welcome back, everybody. We're so glad to have you here for the exclusive after show of Drag from the Left. Call in, call out. On the after show, we dig a little deeper into the social and political implications and examples of issues and what have you that happened on the show. Our resident professor, Avery Ware, will help us further delineate a topic. And we have us a good old time. And
Yes, we do.
so let's get started with call in, call out. Oh, I started to get familiar with y'all because we got our steady fan base. You know, it's about 10 of y'all out there that stay with us every week.
We appreciate it. All
And we
right.
appreciate each and every one of you. But I am your hostess with the mostest, the very Reverend Dr. Juanita Bind'Em.
And this is Avery. My drag name this week is London Evangelista.
All right, let's get into this call in, call out. I would like to defer to you. And
Okay.
what's your call ins and call outs for this week of March, this first full week of March?
Yes, yes. I'm gonna talk about Miss Symone real quick. And I have done this before, but I won't be before you long. But I do want to dedicate this after show to her and her drag and her art. So I reference this interview literally all of the time. Anytime I'm speaking publicly, I talk about Toni Morrison, probably 9 times out of 10. In this specific interview that I'm referencing, um, she is being interviewed by a white woman whose name escapes me at the moment. Um, and the interviewer asked her, do you think that you will ever write about white people in a substantial, legitimate way? As to say, when will your work be legit? Like, when will you include the mainstream, the master narrative, Toni Morrison calls it? When will you include us in your art? And for the only reason for your art to be legit, for you to be serious, be a serious writer, you need to write about white people, right? That was the implication of this very loaded question she asked Miss Morrison. So Professor Morrison takes a sip of her water and cuts her eyes, and she says, "You cannot understand how profoundly racist that question was. You
Do
cannot
you?
even
Do you?
you cannot even wrap your mind around now where I already am is the mainstream, right? You think or you expect that my experience exists on the periphery. And let's just go along with that frame of thinking, right? I am on the periphery, according to you, right? And I own that. However, what my art does is we shift the balance, and now the periphery is the mainstream, right? You now have to move around me. And for me, Symone does that almost perfectly, right?
Yeah.
When Miss Girl, Elliot with 3Ks, was like, she's Black Girl Magic. Her drag is Black Girl Magic, but it's not aggressive. And we talked about this, and we said, no, her drag is pretty aggressively black. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not as emotion invoking as this runway was. But the hair, the jewelry, the aesthetic is very black, and I always harken back to the '90s because it's very much influenced by like '90s black women. But it is very, very culturally black, from the messaging to the design to the hair to the earrings down, right? And I said this a few episodes ago. I really appreciate what she does for the culture, but as I'm seeing more and more of Symone, I don't think she does it for the culture. She's like, this is me. I am the culture.
Yeah.
Right? I am the culture, and I'm just sharing it with you all. But this is
Yeah.
just me being my black ass self, presenting
Yeah.
my black ass art, and I'm not trying to be obscure. I'm not trying to be super black. I am just I'm presenting my art in the most genuine way that I know how, right? And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, right? Again, it puts it in the mainstream, and in black art, black culture is the mainstream. We all know that. Everyone else gets their cues from us.
Yeah.
If we're just keeping it a buck. And Symone and her drag is here to remind you of that. Like, you got this hairstyle, you got these big earrings, you got this walk, you got that from our culture, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I have no issues with her constant referencing, right? For me, like, work being a professor, being an adjunct professor, for me is harkening back to citations, right? And there's all the scholarship of Black women that talk about the citation as a love language, citation as an art form, right? It is a way in which art and culture and literature is reproduced over and over for the next generations to be accustomed to. And Simone is just doing that in drag. It's just another iteration of that. So from a pedagogy standpoint, it is also profound in that way too, right? And pedagogy is just kind of the ways in which people teach. That's a very
Yeah.
simplistic definition, but
Yeah.
that's what that means. And I'm
It's like,
not saying that to
so
you. I'm
it's
not.
like
I'm not trying to insult anybody's
right.
intelligence. I just want to explain what I'm talking
Right.
about.
It's the art and the technique to educating and teaching. Right.
Exactly. So
So
that's
there's
why
like
I have no qualms. I'm not upset at all about the constant referencing because it is literally a love language to keep our culture, not I don't want to say relevant, but to keep aspects of our culture routinely recycled so um, people either don't forget or the newer generations can learn, like, oh, this is where that comes from. Oh, this references that. This is a classic piece of 90s black film, right?
right.
When I say that, I'm specifically talking about that first spring runway with Ronnie from Players Club, Halle Berry, and Babs. It gave me
Yeah.
all very that, right? To this fandom, especially the drag race fandom out there, they don't know what that is. They don't know what that hairstyle is. They don't know where it comes from.
Right.
But now we have a queen like Symone and the art she presents that is able to be constantly referenced, so it is never forgotten. It is never lost. And that's to say that it has to be on the biggest stage. It has to have a platform for it to be forgotten. But to put that on this platform, for me, is profound and I appreciate it. And again, that is not to say, again, because I want to, and this is what we do as writers too, especially in academia. We can we know kind of the counterpoints we're going to get, and we knock them down. We nip it in the butt.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so another criticism that I foresee happening is that um, our art is not validated by white people and whiteness. It doesn't have to be. And I can see the argument that um, Symone's drag and our celebration of Symone's drag more so, um, we're happy about it because it's now being validated by whiteness. And that is not the perspective I'm coming from either. Um,
Right.
it would be valid whether it was on RuPaul's Drag Race or not. She could be doing this down at the Interbelt 3 days a week, and it would still be sickening, and I would still be saying this, right?
Right.
But that's not to discount the platform that Drag Race is. It is the biggest platform of drag in the literal world,
Yeah.
right? So for our culture to be represented in this way and showcased in this way, it is just moving. Right, when she came out on that runway this past Friday, I got choked up. That doesn't come easy for me, right? And that was before she turned around and we saw the messaging, right? She looked beautiful just from the front. And it was different because it was a little bit toned down. It was simple, but it was still very elegant, different from what we are used to seeing Symone do. And I think someone just last week was like, I want to see her do glamour. Well, here you go. Mama's
Yeah.
multifaceted, right? She ain't no one trick
I
pony.
I am so looking forward to seeing her best drag. They always do the best drag category, and
Right, right.
I am so like I get chills thinking about it. And I too, when I saw Symone, again, like from when I'm critiquing in multiple ways. So when it comes to like category being fascinator, it was not my favorite fascinator look. But when I just singularly remove it from the context, like the context of competition, what she looks like in this moment, this outfit was spiritual to me. And it's first off, being draped in white cloth and having a white head covering is a part of a lot of African diasporic spiritual beliefs and practices. And to see Black people draped in white cloth and fabric is so healing, so angelic, so powerful, so spirit invoking. And when she made that turn, an instantaneous, like it didn't need to say their names. I knew it, you know, and like. And for her to do it, like it made me like very emotional, you know. And she you know, she said, you know, Tony McDade, and she said George Floyd, and she said Tamir Rice, and she was just naming them. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. And the thing that I noticed that pushes me is like, yeah, Ruth said like oh, thank you for showing the, you know, the moment or whatever. But I don't feel as though she's being celebrated for the Blackness and for the how intentional that what she's showing us. I don't feel like she's celebrated enough for that. I fear this typical trope of them shifting Symone into a universal story. And Symone is not a universal story. You may enjoy what Symone does, and you may feel impacted by it, and that is okay. But it is a Black story nonetheless, you know. And and it is so profound, and I'm very impressed with what she continues to represent. I'm just so impressed. And when the show's over and we start to get these truths and like underlying stuff that has happened in the show through like and the girls when they stop airing and the girls can get a little bit more nitty gritty, you know, because they have you know, they pretty much have like a gag order, like they can't talk about certain stuff while it's airing. And once it's over and they out of that little contract, I can't wait to see how it all you know comes down. Thank you so much, Avery, for like pointing out Symone, pointing out the culture, and again helping us to like really look at the world through you know, like a different lens. I appreciate you, and we appreciate you here at the podcast Dragged from the Left, Symone. And thank you so much for being
thank you for one being you. Thank you for showcasing our culture in the way and so genuinely and authentically and unapologetically. There is a thing, so this is kind of going in a different direction, but this could easily be gimmicky, right? A Black queen doing this kind of drag and using their drag as activism in this way could be very gimmicky. Right?
It has been. Somebody did it last season. I can't remember who did it last season, with their names were written on, but you couldn't see. Like it was like. Did Alexis Michelle do it? It's been done before, and it wasn't. It felt gimmicky. Yeah. You know.
I don't think it was on the show though. I think it was like on a different. I know what you're talking about, but I can't put my finger on where it was or who did it.
No, it was on Drag Race, and it was written on the. I think it was a white garment, and they were handwritten, and it was just kind of hard to see and hard to read. It said like Black Lives Matter and like different like. You know, like sands or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and find that. But that is not what Symone does, and I am happy about that because the gimmicky part, why it's just corny and late, is utterly disrespectful to this liberation movement that we are currently in, and it is utterly disrespectful to the legacy of liberation movements that we have kind of like taken up, right? So I'm glad and I can tell with Symone it's genuine, especially. So I made the mistake of going on Instagram the other day, and you know, I was scrolling and I was like, oh, House of Avalon, that's Symone's house. Went on their page to a new discovery. That this house is all white, aside from Symone. Right? I was like, oh, everybody in this house is white. Okay. I had to sit with that a little bit, right? But even that, right? Even that, when it's one black person surrounded by a sea of whites, it's always going to make me raise an
Yeah,
eyebrow,
it's
no
always
matter
like,
who it is, or no matter what the context is. Like, my girl, I know you in LA, but still.
Well, like at your birthday party, I was talking to, like, me and Benji was talking after, and they was just like, you know, like, it's always like, you know, you always kind of get like a little nervous, like meeting a new, you know, crowd of people, specifically when you're going with somebody who you're like in an entanglement with, and you know whatnot, or whatever, and it was like everybody was like so nice and kind and beautiful, and I was like, and all my friends are, you see, like all my friends are black. It's like black. Okay.
Yes.
And it's just like,
yeah, but that's the kind of people I hang around.
yeah,
Black
good
people who are nice.
Yeah.
Good people. Good black folk.
But they yeah, like so major. I'm like, Symone is the bee's knees. Like, she really is.
Yeah.
But and
I
also
try to
I
put
would
that
love
into
to see
words. But I can't. I really can't put my appreciation for her into words.
I will say, I think it's so great that I get
But
such a genuine, authentic presentation of blackness from somebody who has so much. Their drag is centered around so many like white drag queens. So, that is interesting. And I think as the show goes on, like, we could probably have different conversations and further critique. Like, just be looking at, like, you know, as things go on, they get a little more lax and different stuff. I just was like, but from the show, I hope that Symone has a wealth of beautiful black people in her life that have stakes in her life that she's friends with. Because sometimes, you know, and then sometimes I think about, maybe depending on like where you live and stuff like that, it can be difficult as a queer person, particularly one that is hyper feminine, to sometimes find a clique of people that look like them to jug with, particularly if they're like stuck in the mindset of kicking it with people who fit and align with the status quo, you know?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to just kind of see how that one evolves.
Yeah, that definitely warrants a larger conversation, I think. Especially in the realm of Drag Race, because it is no secret that the black queens on the show, 9 times out of 10, have little to no, especially when it comes to romantic partners. Like, outside of Jada Essence Hall, if you are a black person on the show, you're in a relationship, you were probably with a white person. If you had a friend come on the show, 9 times out of 10, they were a white friend. Right.
Yep.
It's very seldom that we see black person or authentic portrayals of blackness on RuPaul's Drag Race.
And interpersonal relationships in and outside of the show is very hard to come by. It is very, very hard to come by. And it's very, very interesting because we know from public health and data on that is more so related to individuals, like research for PrEP, STIs, HIV, and things like that. But we know statistically that Black people are often and most likely in relationships with Black people, even queer ones, right? But the media portrayal is like the antithesis to that. But that's also very, very specific because, you know, aligning yourself with mainstream whiteness has its benefits to some, you know. And also depending on how you define attractiveness, you know, there's like we know those girls who be at the bar that's just as black as us, and I don't think that they see themselves as an attractive and beautiful being unless coveted by someone that's not Black. They don't buy it as a real, genuine, thing. So it's just like, it's so many layers in this bullshit.
Right. And that's where we come along and we get in the bar. We be like, come hang with us. Like, come have a drink over here. Let's put you on to something.
Like, come on. Stop getting your hair.
And we do it so sly. Just come on over here. It'll be all right.
You want a drink? You need a barber? You need a real barber?
Yeah.
Let me know.
Right.
Okay.
I got you. Like, my dude hook you up. Like, you need a nail tech? Shoot, my girl got you. Like,
okay.
Let's get you in some real community, honey.
And then I'll be having to tell them, like, girl, do not be letting these white people call your penis a big black cock. Stop that.
Yeah, and it's a shame we got to tell the girls, but they don't know.
They don't know. They don't really know. But people out here is traumatized. We live in a white supremacist society. Everybody out here trying to find love where they can find. They don't know what's going on. They be
we almost can't stand a chance. How can you blame them?
Yeah,
living in this world.
Well, that's what I be looking at. There's a difference when I see a Black queer person that is like multiply marginalized, different, and all that, like when they have a white partner, and these be the ones that be having them white partners that don't be on the bullshit, you know, like, but I just be like, I just think like when you a fat, black, fuzzy, feminine person who throws some other different ways to be marginalized in there, it'd be like, well, you know, Pickens is slim, and she like her, this person found you attractive and you like them back, you know, and you know, whatever, you know.
Right, and let's add region and location to that because we live in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. Okay, and there are way more of them than there are of us.
When I moved to Columbus, it was scary. You know, I went to Columbus. When I went to Columbus, it was so like I felt it was, well, you know, my roommate knew where to find the black people, but I didn't.
Girl.
And the thing is, all the niggas that his white ass was fucking, they don't like black dick.
Listen, that is very real. People from New York, Atlanta, especially Atlanta, Miami, DC, where you can spit and land on 10 to 12 black folks that date other black folks, right?
Yeah.
That you are lucky, right? Because in Ohio, you'll spit and you try to land on a black person that dates other black people, and that spit will hit the ground before it hits a nigga. So, like, and that is not me being hyperbolic. That is real. Like, the community is this big, and most of them are trying to date other white people. So if you are a black person looking to date other black people, like myself, be prepared to be lonely. Like at least romantically.
Yeah, and
like,
then you're gonna end up with you gonna have partner. It is you at some point or another. You gonna have a partner, and you gonna be fucking people that don't look like you because, like, I mean,
hello.
All right,
I have.
I love you, Benji. You're so cute.
Yes, we like Benji over here.
Oh, child, they be calling me white man's whore, but
that spirit of Tamara is all on you.
Oh God, no, but like. Nonetheless, my call out is short, okay? Mm-hmm. Two things. One, I like to take a moment to point out why so many of the black queens and other queens of color on this season of Drag Race and in Drag Race in general, besides Bob, really, spend so much time wearing colored contacts. And it is yeah, I want to talk about it, including Symone. I want to know.
It's real. No, it's real. This is real. It's just funny.
Hazel, green, hazel, blue, gray, anything but a brown eye. What is so wrong with a brown eye? They got a whole song, "Pretty Brown Eyes." You
come on.
Like, I just be like, like, why? And they be like, it's so our eyes can be seen better on stage. But it's tons of white queens that just wear their normal brown eyes, and because they don't have to posture with the eye color because they already white. You know what I'm saying? Then why can't you just wear your normal eye color? Or if you go wear a contact that is maybe a bigger eye or like got some fleckles in it to help in the thing, can it still be a brown eye? They got brown contacts that look more brown than your normal eye. You know, that's made more. Yeah. The iris is bigger, and they sometimes put a couple like little gold flakes in there, but I still want the eye to be brown. Why all the queens got the green contact and the hazel contact and the blue contact? I'm so old.
They want to be Picola Brelove so bad. If Picola went through it, for the people that didn't get that reference, Picola Brelove is a main character in Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Picola wanted blue eyes so bad because she thought she was ugly. She was a dark-skinned black girl from Lorain, Ohio. Shout out to Lorain, that's my hometown too. And she experienced a vast amount of trauma very early on. No one had her back. She was violated time after time. Make sure we put some content warnings in here. She was violated time after time after time by friends, family, what have you. So my girl said, if I can get some blue eyes like the white folks, it'll all be good. So it was a story. It's a very profound story about race and desirability and trauma. But yeah, that's where that joke came from. They want to be Picola. You don't have to. Your eyes are fine the way they are.
Girl, you don't just put some white eyeliner in your crease and let that
to make it it'll make it look bigger.
Yeah, like that's all you gotta do, or put a sometimes I don't actually use white because I think it's too stark. It's almost like a cream color. It's like taupey. It's more tan than white. It blends better for me. But I'm just like, girl, just expand that eye. Just and
Yeah.
open them bigger. Just spread them open. Just boom.
Yeah.
Look big. Like it bothers me.
There are tricks.
And
There
I'm
are
real
tricks that are
I
not
am
color
real
contact.
judgmental of a motherfucker of a black motherfucker in the color contact because for why? And it's not the same. People like you dye your hair green, you do that. That is not the same thing. The eyes
It's
is the
not.
key to your soul. Okay, hair is okay. That's different. Hair is that you can play with your hair. Like that's a little different. I don't want to
Right.
hear nah. You ain't gonna try me.
Right. So here's my thing about the context. If you have context and to fit a look, a very
Right. Sometimes they do
specific
go with a
look.
look.
Right. The one that comes to mind just off top was Monet's all white look in All Stars 4.
With the red scleral lenses. Yeah.
Yes, that went with the look. That made sense, right? But if you just put the blue contact in so you can have blue eyes, so you saw how it worked for Picola. It didn't work, actually.
It don't work. It don't work. It don't work. And then
It don't
you
work.
take those color contacts out, so now you an ugly ass bitch. You an ugly ass bitch now. So you just want to go around like, come on, girl.
You gonna go home to that? You gonna go home to that white man, and you gonna get ready to get down with the get down. You gonna snatch them contacts out. You gonna come out that bathroom, and he gonna be like, excuse me.
Well, you know what? I was in a play a couple years ago by a local, a renowned playwright from Cleveland, Lisa Langford. Look her up. Her work is really, really good and profound, and it's always centered around the Black experience. And it typically has a bit of Afrofuturism. It plays with like the distant yet near future. So something is far away, but it's tangible enough for us to live to reach. And she plays a lot with technology in it because technology, of course, is making, things. So the show was called How Blood Go. And it was about the relationship between Black people in the medical industry. And I played a character by the name of Bean who had syphilis, was a part of the Tuskegee experiment, and then ultimately dies from the disease like they all did. But it plays in that's the past, but it also plays into the near future. And a relative of mine, an ancestor, is a part of a medical experiment. We also know Black people often are always being signed up for the medical experiments because they need $50 that the person offering them to do it because they don't let us have the resources that we need to whatever. So she's in this experiment. She wears a thing on her neck called a shape nape. And what it does is it makes her appear white to medical professionals. And what they see is that her health improves. She gets all fit, her lungs capacity, her skin is glowing. She's doing all of this. It's because the doctors are giving her the appropriate care because they see her as white. But the study was created by white people. And what they say is that the reason that she do the study is because, not that they're racist, is because Black people are like just vile, and the shape nape has taught her how to do what white people supposed to do, and that's why her life is better because she just living her life like a white person. She's like, no, I'm doing what the doctor tell me to do, and the doctor don't be telling other people to do the right, you know what I'm saying? And they don't have to trust the relationship with the medical industry. But nonetheless, her boyfriend starts only wanting to fuck her when her shape nape is on, and he be turning it on without her permission and having sex with her when she's white. And when she not white, he's like, can't you just go and press the little button so you look white? And I'm like, ooh. And in the play, and it's so hard because the audience realizes it in the scene, and I'm also on stage, but I'm like not supposed to notice that because I'm in the past and this is in the future. But every night I would have such a hard time trying to be like, Alex, don't react to that, because it just strikes your soul when he be like, well, why can't you be white tonight? And everybody be like,
this is some Lovecraft
and the thing
country.
Is, he made love to her. He had sex with her like he had never had sex with her before. Like, I mean, he was laying it, like in the scene, how it's written. Like, he really pulled out all the stops, did all the moves. And it's because he had turned on her device without her knowing that she had turned on the experiment device. Because she only turns it on when she goes to the doctor, because that's the experiment, But that girl, okay, it's some shit with that. And my other call out. Oh yeah, it's a really good show. It's called How Blood Go. I probably still have a script around here for you to read. I'll just give you the script. It's a really good script to read. And it's an easy read. Like, the script was easy. It's funny as shit. Like, it's just read the script. My other call out is, so T.S. Madison, I love T.S. Madison. And
Yeah,
I know
she
we're gonna
was
get her
so
as a
good.
judge. Like we gonna it's like I think it's like 8 more episodes left of this damn show. It gotta be because the girls ain't gone.
So long.
So I'm certain she'll be back to judge at least 1 or 2 more times. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the Untucked and backstage, she has a very candid moment with Gottmik. And I want to talk about a specific phrase that she used. So T.S. Madison said, from one trans to another, I would like to, just really shout you out for being on the show and for showing them that anybody can do drag. It is an art form and you doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? But I want the general public to know that they are not permitted to call a trans person a trans. Like that is not okay. That is not appropriate. That is very objectifying. That is not people first language. It is very negative. And that is a T.S. Madison and Gottmik have an intra-community relationship that the vast majority that cis folk don't have with them. You know what I'm saying? And she was able to speak to Mick that way because they can speak to Mick that way. You know what I'm saying?
And it's that simple.
And it's that simple, and this is even different from people like, the trans community is vast. We got trans folk and non-binary people are under the trans umbrella and gender non-conforming and all this different stuff. But when we're talking about people who transition on the binary, it's a bit of a different experience in the ways in which they are marginalized, harmed, and experience life, right? Like I am a non-binary person, but for the rest of I present as a boy. Most, you know what I'm saying, most of the time. So I don't get the type of fight back that I get from people looks a lot different from my trans like black trans women siblings and things like that, right? So but we are not permitted to have that type of language, use that type of language, and to engage in that type of conversation with Mick when referring to Mick or referring to other people in our lives that are trans. And if you have a cousin out there that lets you call them quote unquote a trans, then you better only say it to your cousin, because if you say it to another trans person, they might kill you. So like, I'm just being honest, like they might beat your ass, like period. And like the trans people that I kick it with, because they always feel like they're in such danger, you are very likely for them to reach in a person, do something really, really, really not nice to you for doing that. Okay. And I am not encouraging violence, and I am not saying it all like that. I'm just saying you got to be careful, because you can't try everybody the same way. Okay, you cannot try everybody the same way.
You cannot try everybody the same way and live to tell the story. Okay, because you might not.
But no, in general, you want to refer to like, honestly, if it's not necessary to point out a person's transness, then we don't necessarily have to do that. It's oftentimes not a necessary point to point out that this is a trans, blah, 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 blah. But if we are speaking about something like a trans specific topic, or a person has asked for you to, to do that, or we're talking about it from a more like social justice or political or academic way, like trans man, trans woman, person of the trans experience, like that, you got to use people first language, and you never just call somebody a trans, you never just call somebody a gay, a homosexual, like these are not, like, that's not what we do.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with my class, actually, because in our textbook, which I hate, the authors say blacks. They write blacks a lot. Yeah. And I was like, y'all, and this is this semester I'm teaching American government and politics. So I was like, y'all, just as a sidebar, when you are referring to black people or any race of folk, it is not blacks. It is not natives or Indians. I actually highly discourage my students from saying Indians, unless you're talking about people.
Because you're not talking about them. They're not from. It's just not right. That's not what they are.
Right.
They are. Like,
I was like, do you know? Listen, this is not my history class, but I was like, in my class, we do not refer to indigenous and native people as Indians. You would have, and I don't knock off points because I'm not petty like that. I don't do it like frequently, but I would knock off points if you refer to those people as Indians. I'm knocking off 5 points. Don't do it. It's disrespectful. But yeah, I'm getting off on a tangent. But I was just like, it's not blacks. It is black people. That is very dehumanizing.
Can I ask you a question? I want to know your opinion on this. So Benji has a friend who's getting their master's in social work, and they asked if they can interview me for a project because they need to interview a person from a different culture than them. So they interviewing a black person, blah blah blah. Now, first off, their professor told them to just get somebody and pretend. I was like, oh my god, that is horrible. So there's people in their class that their professor has permissed to pretend to be Indian, pretend to be black, pretend to be gay, pretend.
So why even do the assignment?
Why even
assign it?
Like what?
That makes no sense to me. It's wasting everybody's time.
So me and Benji was like, no, you really need to interview a person. I volunteered, like, you can interview me, whatever. It take 15, 20, half an hour, like whatever. Like, hit me up. You can ask me the social work questions, and I'll play along in a role play with you. But you don't need somebody to do blackface to do, you know what I'm saying, to do the project. But I told them their friend who's doing the project is a white person, and they were like talking about like how they in school for social work, how they come up against a lot of stuff that's like kind of problematic that's being taught to them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's intrinsic to the industry of social work, and how like it's in the textbook, and how they refer to people and blah, 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 blah. And I told them, just giving them another pointer on their project, I was like, you can refer to people, African-American people, as black people. In fact, I think it would be a very good, a very bold, a very affirming choice, and really would shock the shit out of your professor if you just talked about you interviewed a black person. And in this, like, stop saying African-American, say black people. Black is not a bad word. Or whatever.
I'm not gonna say that all the time.
He was like, it's so funny. He's like, but there's a whole chapter in my textbook that says never call black people that. Like, you have to call them African Americans. And they were talking about Jesse, like they used a Jesse Jackson quote from back in the day to justify why. And I was like, that specific context, and you know, like that for different things. Different time. We are no longer trying to align to the white American status quo. I find it offensive. No. It also implies immigration, and we did not immigrate. Come
on.
Here, it also claims an American identity, and they do not get to have a hold on me in that way.
Absolutely. So, also, and this is stating the obvious, that the black person you are talking to may or may not be African American. Every black person in America is not African.
Right. All black people is black, but they not all African. They not all African American. So you're referring to that maybe be very incorrect. You know?
Yes, they can be from South America. They could be from the islands. They could just be African and be from the continent of Africa. Like, you don't know. Like, so especially at the institution I work at, it's very but it's just we have a large international population. So quite literally, all the black people at my institution are not African American.
So I was
the vast majority
it's okay for them to say that, and I just wanted somebody else to it's what I'm saying correct, and I'm like, just say black people.
No, just say black.
Capitalize the B and say black people.
Yes, and say black.
Say it, black.
That's
black,
what
black,
we are.
Black.
Unless you're talking to a black person and they say, I prefer to be called African American.
Exactly. But you can switch your baseline. Everybody listening, you could switch your baseline to black people.
Yes.
Okay.
You sure can.
You okay? It ain't like you called me a nigger. You didn't say that. But so funny that people be wanting so quick to say nigger in the song, but they don't want to say black. But they love to say nigger in the song.
Come on.
Don't say black,
make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Okay. Okay, y'all, this is our calling call out. We're gonna play these two little messages and we're gonna get up out of here. But at the end of the day, I want you to know it's okay to say black. Also, my black siblings out here, y'all need to let them color contacts go. And I don't want nobody talking about I'm being judgmental. People can do what they want to do. People can't do what they want to do. But I'm almost certain that your color contacts are rooted in severe anti-blackness. And I need you to let it go.
Unpack that. Unpack that.
I relinquish you from that. I bind it and I send it to the depths of hell from which it came. Okay, because
open that suitcase and unpack that.
Okay, my God said that you are the head and not the tail. Okay, the Linda and not the Barbara, above and not beneath, the Alpha and not the Omega. And you need to take what I'm telling you in context in the garbage.
In the head that my guy was talking about didn't involve no color contacts in them. Okay,
it did not. It
just didn't.
I promise you. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now. I am a PhD linguist, and I can translate ancient Sanskrit better than anyone in the world. And I want you to know that God directly said in the Bible, "Thee shall throweth colored contacts in the garbages." Okay. For thine shall have eternal blessed life. And
which one of them said? Peter, Paul, James. One of them wrote that in one of them books.
One of them.
Also really moved by Symone's outfit because it made me think about how things like the Holocaust are held in collective memory. So it's like, never forget the Holocaust, never forget it, because if you forget the Holocaust, it will happen again. Whereas all like the injustices that have happened to Black people are kind of like denigrated to Black history. And it's like, oh, that happened so long ago, like forget about it. Like it's like the Holocaust is in public memory and it's everyone's pain, whereas like things that have happened to Black people is just Black people's pain. So I just feel like Symone putting this on a show like RuPaul's Drag Race, this message is making it a part of the collective memory and making the pain of Black people everybody's, not like it's a pain, a collective pain that belongs to everybody, which means we shouldn't forget it.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure we say this because that was an amazing, profound comment. And what they just said was not anti-Semitic in any way. They are not critiquing or saying anything negative or they are invalidating the Holocaust. But we do have to be very upfront about the experiences and how when mass amounts of harm happen to individuals, who gets assistance, who is allowed to continue to create a legacy of that pain and stuff not happening again. And Black people, particularly in the United States of America and those related to chattel slavery, our legacy of the trauma that we went to is not held as a universal narrative to heal from, as and everybody take accountability to make sure that that's happening not again. And that is very well true. And we all know why. It's because we Black. It's because we Black. That's why.
Yeah. And it's another tactic of dehumanization and historical erasure.
Well, y'all keep these questions coming out. I'm only gonna do one more.
See, I have a degree in art history, and I've wrote like a lot about Black people within my work, and like black people, Black women in art, Black queer people. We just say Black if we're talking about Black people. We don't say like. I understand how you say African American a lot, even if the people aren't. I don't know, but where I'm from, we just write Black people.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Black, blackity, black.
See, I have a degree in art history, and I've wrote like a lot about Black.
I don't know why that one came twice, but thank you.
Why I posted twice? Yeah.
Thank you, Will. So that is our call and call out for the week. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in yet again to another episode of Drag from the Left. This is the exclusive after show call in, call out, where we call people in, call people out, talk about social and political things, further delineate topics, and shoot the shit and talk about the good things that we need to talk about. We would like you all. Excuse me, I am burpy and gassy today. It's this ginger ale I just down over here. We like you all to continue to engage with us. So make sure that you all are following us on social media at Drag from the Left. That's DRAGFTL on all social media platforms. We are here on Sundays at 6 p.m. on stereo. That is live. Edited versions of our episodes typically come out on the Wednesday following. Whatever, stay tuned. There may be some shifts coming up with that, but we're gonna keep pumping out this content. It's gonna be coming and pumping, and we're gonna do the thing. We are looking forward to wrapping this season up with you all. If there's ever anything you want us to talk about, questions that you need to ask, you are welcome to tweet at us using hashtag Drag from the Left. That's DRAGFTL. We had some fun engagement this week when I was live tweeting. You never know if it's me or if it's Avery. You better see if you can guess who is who. Sometimes I send a kiss and say from Juanita if it's a Juanita specific message. Sometimes you don't know who it is. So you could tweet at us using hashtag Drag from the Left, questions and things that you would like to talk about. You can also email us at dragfromtheleft@gmail.com, but you need to spell it all the way out. Drag from the Left, spelt regular. Drag from the Left at gmail.com. And we will reply and talk about you on the show. Thank you. I am your hostess with the mostest, the very Reverend Dr. Juanita Bind'Em.
Yes, thank you all for joining us for another week. My name is Avery. My drag name this week is London Evangelista.
And we will see you all next week. Have a good night.
Bye.